Cosmere can be a confusing place.
From allomancy to surge binding, there's a lot to look out for.
We're your hosts and escorts to the realms. I'm Griff.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Silverlight Guide to the Cosmere. Alright, this is episode 0 for the Silverlight Guide to the Cosmere. We're just gonna... I'm Griffith.
I'm Alex.
And, this is just going to be sort of an intro episode where we go over what this podcast is going to be.
Yeah, so let's get some things out of the way first. This is going to be a Cosmere-oriented podcast.
Yes. We are going to be starting from the foundations going up, so that if anybody is interested in the Cosmere as a whole, rather than just specific series, hopefully this will be a nice little compendium, compiled guide to all of the different premises that make up the universe as a whole.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about how we got into the Cosmere. So Griffith.
Yes. I started with the Mistborn, which I think was probably a lot of people's intro into the Cosmere.
Yes.
I believe it seems to be, while it was not the first of Sanderson's published books, it does seem to be the most popular, at the very least.
Yeah.
I actually got the first one as, while it was an ARC, I did not receive it in advance of the series, but when I worked for Borders Bookstore, they had an ARC copy that people could take home if they wanted, and so I took it home.
Yeah.
Just because.
Borders, rest in peace.
Yes. But I didn't read it until a while after that, and once I read the first one, I wanted the others, so I picked them up.
Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first?
My introduction was the first time was actually my car was getting repaired, and so a coworker was driving me home, and he was playing the audiobook of The Way of Kings.
Okay.
Yeah, so I knew a little bit, the bit with the battlefield and the little sen, and ultimately, but you and my coworker both told me about The Way of Kings, so I started with the Stormlight Archives Way of Kings.
Which spoiled you a little bit.
It spoiled me greatly, and I personally have a difficult time going back and with video games, I don't go back and play previous titles if I have the newest one.
Okay.
It's just, I always look for the best. So, but the good thing about Sanderson stuff is even the earliest is still good.
Yes, it's not necessarily up to the polished level of his later stuff, but it is still good. It's still enjoyable.
Yeah. So I've read everything except White Sands and the Sixth of the Dusk short story, and Dawnshard that just came out.
Right.
And let's wait a moment while
Tala does this stuff.
Yep. I believe she's taking some herbs. She's cutting some herbs to take to her mom. Because we grow herbs now.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I didn't know this.
They grow horrifically fast.
Okay, good to know.
It's a little bit like a great old one is emerging from our kitchen counter. Every day they're in a new shape. It's confusing.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I will also say, I've actually read everything up to... Well, I think everything excluding Dawnshard, which of course,
right.
I was not a Patreon subscriber.
Sure.
And it just came out early, apparently. I don't know if it was just the Barnes & Noble I was at, but you know what? I'm not going to complain.
I imagine because it was it not in a some sort of anthology
No.
No, it was just
No, it was just the one previous to Dawn Shard.
Edge Dancer.
Edge Dancer, thank you. That one was out. Dawn Shard only came out for his Patreon subscribers.
Oh, I see.
And so this is the first public
Right.
release.
Right. Okay.
And I'm assuming for the Patreon subscribers it was in I don't know if it was in a physical copy or not. I actually can't tell you. I couldn't tell you if it was a PDF or
I believe it would be because that was released in 2020.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
But that one just released, so I'm kind of eager to get through that, which I don't know if it'll have any extra info for us to include.
Sounded like a Phil Collins drum fill.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll have any extra info to include on the Cosmere as a whole, but
I believe it does. From what I've
yeah,
spoiled for myself.
Well, I mean, consider what I know about Dawn Shards
yes.
in and of themselves. Yeah, I think there will be some stuff there, but
we also got to focus on the Lopin.
yes, which I actually enjoy.
A two-armed Dacian. Yeah.
I will say that actually I think that was, and we can cut this part out. I think that was probably my problem with Skyward, was that I did not, and maybe it happens in the second book, but I didn't feel that the main character grew all that much from who she was in the first book. And she's a little obnoxious.
Gotta have somewhere to go.
You do need to have somewhere to go, but you also need to start moving there. And I was about halfway through the second book, and she had grown a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's actually kind of the same problem I have with what's her name? Lift, yes. I'm kind of hoping to see. I've seen some more growth from her.
Yeah.
She has definitely moved forward to some extent from who she was at the beginning. But yeah.
All right.
Anyway, we can cut all that out. That's not.
Or we can keep it.
Or we can, yeah. We'll see.
So that without spoilers, what is your favorite book and why?
I mean, that's tough because I will say that like I have favorite series, but if we're going to go for straight books, I think I would have to go with one of the short stories.
Okay.
Which I really, really liked Soul of the Emperor.
Ah, yes.
I just think that is such a solid, like it if you just read that, if that was the only book that Sanderson, you would not only have a good view on how some of the larger things in the Cosmere worked, but you would also have a complete story from start to finish, and no sense that you have missed anything.
Sure.
It is just such a good golden like introduction to the Cosmere within the Cosmere.
That's true.
And so I think I would have to say that Soul of the Emperor is probably my favorite book, which I know not a lot of people would agree with, but
that's fair.
Yeah.
I think I would probably go with
yeah, what was your favorite and why?
Typically it's always the latest one.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I'll go with I'll probably go with Oathbringer because it brings the oaths. And that's what I'll say about that.
I will say that, avoiding any spoilers entirely, a little bit of a spoiler here, I will say that the climactic scene of Oathbringer is probably the best out of the 4 books we have out so far.
Sure. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's be real. There's some very cinematic moments that...
I mean, like even the fight at the end of Words of Radiance, while excellent,
right, is
not quite up to the level of Oathbringer.
No.
So
Oathbringer, and so we have discussed at length what this podcast is going to be. So I think you may do a better job of explaining that.
I suppose. Basically, this podcast started, and which is kind of wrapped up in the reason we're doing it, is that I did not find a good encapsulation of the basic premises and even details of the Cosmere in one area.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we had the wiki,
Right.
but that's all spread out over various pages.
Right.
And lost in the interviews with Brandon Sanderson and the Q&As and everything, and
which we are so grateful for.
Right, no, trust me. Yeah, the transcripts of those are invaluable, do not get me wrong. But at the same time, reading through pages of wiki and searching up things and then finding out that there are some aspects of it that you had never even heard of, it can be a bit daunting.
Yeah.
And you can rabbit hole really easily.
Real easy. Oh boy.
Yeah. So what I thought was, why not make a podcast that starts at the foundational levels, the basic things, and then works its way into finer and finer detail. And I hadn't found anything like that, so I thought, if it doesn't exist, make it myself.
Right, because if no one starts,
then the others cannot follow.
That's right.
And I will also say that the reason I thought podcast rather than anything else was that, at least in my experience, I don't have a lot of time to read anymore. I love books. I still love,
right,
going through stories, but a lot of the times audiobooks are my option because I don't have a lot of time to just sit down and read. So I thought, rather than a blog, or I don't think I could make this a book, not legally at the very least.
Not for profit.
Yeah. Then podcasts seem like the best way to go.
Right. Right. I mean, we would want to appeal to all the true Alethi men out there.
Of course.
And let them listen.
Yes, because they cannot. We will take the sin upon ourselves.
Yes.
To read, so that they do not have to make the sacrifice.
Yes. So this is going to be focused for people who have, in general, read most of, if not all of, the Cosmere published works.
Right. Yes.
And who may not have the patience or the drive to go through the wiki page by page.
I mean, even I haven't. I know we will be as time goes on.
Oh, sure.
But I have not
had
the patience to just sit down and comb through.
Right.
So, this will definitely be focused for people who have read, like you said, most, if not all. We will be referencing books and not explaining what those are. We will be referencing characters and probably not explaining who those are, at least not at length. So if you're looking for an entire spoiler-free podcast, we will not be that, not even in the least. If you are, this is not a podcast to start with.
No.
If you are trying to get into Sanderson's books.
Right.
Definitely go back, read. We will probably be releasing a reading guide for new listeners, just in case you get into this podcast and you realize this is not what you want, but you don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
We can just put that up on our Facebook page or something.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely go read the stories, then come back and listen to us once you've realized that there is a whole connected world out there and some details that the books do not have.
That's true. I think the only exception would be if you're one of those people who does need to know where a story is going, or does need to know some of the interstitial bits.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say absolutely that you should not listen to this at all, but there could be quite a few things that you will miss or not understand until you have read the series that he has released so far.
For sure. And then some other qualifiers. You may hear animal sounds, dogs or cats, and we hope you enjoy those.
Yes. We do. We will have some guest members of the furry variety that may occasionally come in.
And some more important bits. Sanderson has stated that everybody is the director of the story in their head. So our pronunciations may be different from your pronunciations. That's okay. Everybody's pronunciations are valid.
Don't come at us.
Don't come at us. Don't at me.
Also, a bit of an important qualifier. New information is coming out all the time. Sanderson constantly has Q&As going on, constantly has interviews going on, where he will release little tidbits about the Cosmere and how things work and everything. We will not be keeping up with every new bit of information that comes out.
Mm-mm.
So if you hear a bit of information that is wrong or a bit of conjecture that has either been proven false or true, uh, be assured we probably know, but we will not be constantly updating this to take in new information. Now, after we have gotten through what information we have and possibly done some other things, we will probably go back and revisit the topics we've already covered to keep up with the new information
Mm-hmm.
that has potentially been released. But please understand that, don't necessarily keep coming in with clarifications or corrections depending on the date of the episode. We are probably aware, but again, we're not going to be going back on correcting every little small thing when new information comes out.
Yeah. And like we've said before, spoilers galore.
Yes.
And so here's a little taste about how our episodes will be from this point on, starting with episode 1. We're going to give you some Sanderson news.
Right.
We're going to have a main discussion, including why we're talking about the topic, what spoilers, if people are listening and, they may be okay with some spoilers from some books and not spoilers from other books. We'll try to do some spoiler warnings.
Right.
We're going to be discussing what we know about the topic.
Yes. This will be factual information.
Yes.
What has canonically been stated about the topic itself.
Yes, from the books and from Word of Brandon.
Right.
We're going to talk about it with system specific discussions, and then we're going to also discuss if the topic appears in other systems, and the systems are, of course, the different solar systems that appear in the Cosmere.
Right, yes.
The Rosharan system, the Scadrian system, so on.
If none of that makes sense to you, go and read the books.
Yep. Then we're going to talk about, we're going to invite people to share with us their theories throughout the week before we record. So we're going to call those listener theories. I think that makes us the singers.
I mean, I suppose, yeah.
And we're also going to be taking questions. And then we're going to end the discussion part with our own theories and riffs on what could be coming up.
While we try to avoid too many tangents.
Yes, we'll try. No promises. And then we're going to have an extra bit where we talk about Cosmere connections, and we discuss things that we've found out in the world that may be of interest to people listening to this podcast.
Yes.
Because it's either slightly related, somewhat related, not related at all to Cosmere, but we think it's cool. And that's it for the format.
Yeah, I think that sounds like that sounds like a good premise of what we have going.
Mm-hmm.
Sanderson news. We have a little bit of we have a little bit of Sanderson news.
We do,
which is while it may be a few days early, Dawnshard just released.
That's right.
It shouldn't have been released for another 3 days. 2 days. 2 days.
Tuesday, yeah.
But I found it yesterday at Barnes & Noble, apparently either through error or intention.
I think it was probably one of those illiterate employees that they have
right.
that works at a bookstore didn't see the don't release until... just kidding, Barnes & Noble.
Yeah,
don't at me.
But yeah, I picked up some hard copy versions of Dawnshard, so that should be out, and also date this episode for anybody in the distant future reading.
Yes.
Or listening. And also a release of Dark One, which is a new graphic novel, which apparently was not originally in the Cosmere, or intended to be in the Cosmere system, but Sanderson has stated it actually is, which has some interesting implications.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it as well, and it may shape some things going forward, depending.
In the future, in the summer of 2022, we are expecting that the Brotherwise Games is going to put out their miniatures for the Stormlight Archive.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm personally going to back that. If I think it's a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I probably will as well, because
They are working directly with Sanderson and the creative team at Dragon Steel to
make sure that they're
make
accurate.
accurate minis.
And on top of that, I mean, even if we don't use it for uh, even if I don't have a direct Cosmere game, I think
Right.
having the minis just as character models
Oh,
will be
absolutely.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Make a
So
little diorama using get an ohm from Nausicaa and use that as a chasm fiend.
yes,
For sure.
actually, interestingly enough, that is kind of how I initially imagined the Chasm Fiend to some extent.
Yeah.
I imagined, I mean, of course the claws and stuff like that
Right.
were added, but I did not picture it the way I've seen some artwork depict it. So that was interesting. I pictured them more crab-like as well
Sure.
in my initial reading.
Fun
when I
fact.
first
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, when I first tried to read Stormlight Archives, and I could not get into it.
Because, of course, it's hard to get into a doorstop.
Yes. And I got up to the point where Dalinar and
Yes.
what's his name?
Elokar.
Yeah, Elokar take on the Chasm Fiend. That's
Yes.
about as far as I got in my first reading of it.
Right.
Which, if that's as far as you get, you're not. It does take Sanderson a while to get into the meat of the story.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah, after, but then on my second listen through, I got quite a bit further. But yeah, with my first, I did imagine it much more like a crab.
Sure.
I didn't. I will freely admit, even though it is stated, the stinger tail did not make it into my mental imagining of the Chasm Fiend.
It has a stinger tail?
It has a tail at the very least.
Oh my god.
Which did not make it into my mental picture.
No, not in mine.
Yeah,
either.
I imagined it much more crab-like.
I imagined it similar to the Disney movie Atlantis, the one when they go into water.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. There's that bit right before they when they're in the ocean and that creature comes out and attacks them.
Oh,
that
yeah,
big
yeah.
boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagined it somewhat like that, mixed with the from League of Legends. I think it's Cho'Gath.
I don't know League, so
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, a lot of claws.
Gotcha. I will say that most depictions I've seen has it much more shaped like a scorpion than a crab.
Oh, sure.
Which, as I said, it messed with my mental picture because I was like, that is not at all how I imagined the Chasm Fiend whatsoever.
Sure.
But
I believe the Chasm Fiend wasn't even in his mind until he had an artist create the Shattered Plains in a drawing.
Oh,
and
interesting.
That artist added a little creature in the chasm.
Oh, okay.
And it was a large painting, so I mean, it was very
very tiny.
But then he was like, "Oh, you know what? That kind of looks like it could be something. Let's call it a Chasm Fiend."
All right, interesting.
Yeah. So
yeah. Anyway, other than that tangent,
life influences art.
Yes.
Art influences life.
This is true.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is. But yeah, that should be the episodes as we have them, and that is your little 0 episode for anyone who is interested in the people actually creating it.
Yes.
So yeah, I suppose we will sign off, and we will have our first episode out soon.
The music you hear is Part 3, The Spirit, from Zavadilla's The Music of Elantris, produced by B-Roll Records. Available now on Apple Music, Spotify, and most music providers.
If you like what you hear, and you want others to hear it as well, please leave a rate and review. It really helps us get more listeners.